Hello, hello. What's up, everybody? I'm Informal Geek, and we are continuing through the journey of my top 100 games in 2024. These are my favorites that I've ranked, things that I've played over the years. Of course, there's always a few I tend to forget about, but whatever. That means it's not my favorite if I forgot about it. Just kidding. All right, before we jump right into it, just like my previous videos, I just want to throw a couple disclaimers. So the first one is, obviously, if this is not where you want to jump in, don't worry, I'm not spoiling anything for you. This is the time to get out and go check out from the very beginning back at the 100 to 91 video, which is linked in the description. And then the last disclaimer is, if you want to have any discussions about any of the games that I talk about today in the descriptions, or as a comment, be respectful to new viewers by just not including the title of that game, and we can have a discussion about it by just referencing what number that you're referring to. Other than that, actually, no, there's nothing else to talk than that. So let's just get into it. All right, so you can see the previous 30 games here available. We are going to, just like my previous videos, we're going to just, I'm going to reveal them one by one, giving you a second or two to just look at them and identify them and see if you can, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh. Determine what game this game component or element belongs to, and see how many of these you can guess correctly. So here we go. This is what number we are? We are doing our number 70, I believe. Yes, 100, 90, 80, 70. That's my number 70, or a piece from it. That's here we've got our 69. Sorry about all the rotation on these things. This is a piece from my number 68, and my 67, my 65, 64. 63. I'm off by a number entirely. 70, 69, 68, 67, 66, 65, 64, 63, 62, which, sorry, that's just a little awkward. We're going to do that for you. And 61 over here is this piece. All right, so can you figure out what all 10 games are by just referencing these components? We'll find out. Starting with my number 70 here, we are talking about Royals. This is such a cool game. It's usually when it's described as like to new players, or maybe not new gamers, but it's gamers who have been around for a little while. This is like an area majority game version of Ticket to Ride, because the actions that you take on your turn are very similar. You're going to be, you're going to be seeing a couple of cards, or a display of a few cards, and on your turn you can take 2 cards one at a time from what's displayed or what off the top of the deck, and eventually you're going to be turning in those sets of cards to drop your pieces or take your pieces from the map, and then at certain intervals we're going to be doing scoring for majorities along the way. So this game, it's a strategy game of intrigue and power, because it's literally a part of the game is the intrigue of when you're going for certain things to try and take these other components, which is the one I'm using here. There are 2 pieces to that, and if you can collect them, they'll be worth points at the end of the game. And yeah, it's just a really fun, really fun entry level, lightish type of game. That I think is good for families and the people that I like. I tend to play a lot of games with my families, but it doesn't have to always be. But I tend to play in that family weight that tends to be where I like most of my games. Not all of them. There are definitely exceptions, which you'll probably see right here in this series, actually. But for this one, I think this is such a clean and entertaining game that you can have some table talk around as well. And I think that they did a great job by just kind of keeping this in the era of what you would think of when you think about intrigue, and that maybe a Game of Thrones style to it, even though it's obviously it's not Game of Thrones branded, but it does have that look, I think. Anyway, so that's my number. What number? It's my number 70. That's Royals. All right, now we're going to get into my number 69 here. That's the piece to it there. This might, maybe you figure this one out, I don't really know. But this is Century, Golem Edition, and Endless World. I've played a few of these Century games. I do like the Golem look better. I just find it easier to get people to play them because it just looks nicer. But the Endless World is probably my favorite of the bunch because it uses some worker placement and to drive the mechanism. So what you're trying to do is gain certain combinations of these jewels to appease for the golems, and then you get to claim these for points. And depending on which one you claim, you're going to be getting these tags and abilities, like additional workers or these symbols. And also depending on where that golem is at the point that you visit it on these tracks, you'll get different end game scoring options. So for example, let's imagine that I took this one, right? So if I went here, I would pay the resources for it. I would get this guy. It says that when I go to these locations, it costs 1 worker less, and I get a lightning bolt. And I also could take, as an option, I could take this tile. I only get a slot for up to 3 of these. But what I'm saying is at the end of the game, for every pair of lightning bolts that I have, I also get an additional 3 points. So I'll be on the lookout in the future for lightning bolts cards, and then I'll try to go after those. That's kind of what you're doing here. But I guess the gimmick of the game here is that this is the costs for the initial workers to go here. So for example, if I wanted to go here, it would cost me 2 workers to get a blue gem. And then every time, if someone else wants to go there, you just have to place 1 additional worker than who's already there. So for the second time that someone wants to go here, they would, because there's already 2 workers down, there may only be 2 workers down. Then the next time it would have to be 3 workers that come in. And the player that had their 2 workers here would get those 2 workers back that they could then use in that round. And that's such an interesting, like there's a timing element to this. So you're keeping an eye out, like, all right, well, I can see that this player has all their workers. So it's a good time to maybe it's a good time to outbid them, have them get their workers back. Or, you know what, I'm going to give them 2 workers back. And there's a whole bunch of spaces that are filled up. There's not really anywhere that they can go with those workers. They're still going to have to pass to get all their workers back. So maybe now is a good time to outbid, to put more workers on there. And like I said, sometimes these will be cheaper. Like in this card here, like you're getting abilities as well. So for this card, it says that if every time you go to a location with that symbol, you pay 1 less worker. That could mean here for this player. So I could literally go to a place that normally starts with 2 and only have to pay 1. And then as the game goes by, you might get golems with this icon on there, and that will unlock one of these other locations. The player who picks the golem gets to pick the location, and now you've got new things that you can do. So some places will let you gain certain gems. Other places will let you trade them and convert them. So if this becomes unlocked, you may go here to get 2 yellows, and then you can convert those yellows into 2 greens. And then maybe I have a previous green, and I can come here and turn those into pinks. So this is such a fun way to figure out how to do the conversions while balancing what are the other players going for and who's on the board at a certain state. I really enjoy this game so much, and that is Golem. I'm sorry, it's Century Golem Edition, but more specifically, an Endless World. That's the keyword you want to look for if you're going to be checking out this game. And that's my 69. My number 68 is Space Base. Now this dice, I don't think this dice comes, no, it does not come with the base game. It's got a little jet on there. It is an expansion dice, but whatever. Hopefully you're able to figure that one out. Whoops. But Space Base is a very, very popular game. This person actually has a custom, like 3D printed things to help keep their cards in play. You don't need any of that stuff, to be honest with you. But it's cool when it's there. It makes it easier to look at. I'm sure it helps easier to pick up cards from a hard, flat surface like that. But this is a game of craps. I'm going to call it out for what it is. It's a game of craps. No, it's not really. So this is a game that gets better with the more players that you add. I actually don't like it at 2 or 3. I would play it at 4+ every single time, because on your turn, you roll 2 dice, and you have to assign them to a particular bay in your ship, or in your, I don't know what this is, like your I guess it's your space base. With all these dock ships there. And so let's imagine you rolled a 2 and a 4. So you could allocate them to the 2 and the 4 spot, or you can combine them and activate your 6 bay. Now that's fine and great because you're buying cards that upgrade the cards here. But what's really interesting is every time you buy a new ship and you put it in a space, that whatever was there gets flipped over and you can see it gets tucked to your board like this. And so if I zoom in even further on this card here, if I were to activate a 10 on my turn, I get 5 points. But, and here's where everything gets better with more players, if I upgrade this 10 and get rid of this card and I flip this over, this becomes a 3 here. Then, and any other player rolls a 10, I get all this stuff, including points. And so that's where this game gets really exciting, is when you begin to, if someone, let's say this player over here gets a really cool, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got that powerful 7. I really wanted that 7. But turns out what I've upgraded on my 7 is really good. I'm actually kind of hoping for that player to roll a 7. Please roll a 7 because I'm going to get something really good about that. And that's what I equate to in the game of craps, is when you're rooting for someone else to roll something that you want, and it has no effect to them other than them, getting as, not getting as much as they want really. But most of the time, the interactions between players is usually just you roll something that you need so that I can also get something that I need. And and that type of interaction is always fun. Anyways, and it's a race game. You're trying to race to get to 40 points. There's a whole lot more I can say on this game, but I'm not gonna because it's so good. So check it out for yourself. And that is Space Base. It's not a party game, and it is kind of a rough teach to brand new people in the hobby. But if you get some people who are kind of open-minded to learn something that could come off as a lot of an explanation in their first time, it might be a really good time for them as well. So take that advice and enjoy it. So that is Space Base, my number 68. And now my number 67 here uses this little red blob, which in fact is the damage marker in Thunderstone Quest. I didn't realize until just now I got a non-English version of it, but whatevs. This is it's a deck building game. It's actually more of a pure deck building game than some of the other deck building hybrids that are out there. It's kind of a dungeon crawl, but not really. Yeah, I totally got the wrong edition here. Sorry about the wrong translation. Anyways, you've got a player board and you have your typical draw cards, play all the cards for their abilities, discard, draw new ones, right? That's very, very mechanical deck building. What happens on your turn that really makes this interesting is whether you interact with the village or the town, or you start diving into the dungeons. And so you go here to upgrade cards and get better units, or get things from the market that are like weapons or items, or even just different heroes of some sort. Or and there's a space that's kind of hidden up here that you can get some resources with. Like I said, or you can come in through the dungeons and you start to attack some of the creatures that are here. And to progress deeper into the dungeons typically costs more light, which is a resource, these lanterns, which I think these are the base game. I think this might, actually, I guess it is base game because I'm looking at the back of the box. You're going to get some lanterns that you would use to help you traverse down deeper, and then you're trying to draw a really good hand of cards and defeat the baddie and get some rewards and stuff like that. And eventually gather some Thunderstones, hey? But you're going to be getting experiences as well, and using those experience to upgrade, and your experience is basically the victory points. Anyways, it's a spin on deck building that does require quite a bit of setup, unfortunately, because you need to choose which cards you're going to have for that given game. But there's so much content out there now that you can just have a lot of fun. It's very replayable. There's a ton of variety out there. You don't need everything. The base game is plenty. Honestly, it's really good. But there's an expansion out there that makes this into a co-op game or a solo game, and I would recommend that as well. It's called the Barricades one. But yeah, try it out. I think it's a lot of fun, and that is Thunderstone Quest, spin on deck building. That is quite fun. All right, my next one up here is my number 66, and that is going to be a game called Western Legends. This is one of the few sandbox style games that are out there. Sandbox meaning that although there are mechanisms and rules to follow in order to play the game, your route is very open-ended. So you can come up with your own direction and go from there. And in this particular game, it's obviously in a Western setting. But I think the most interesting aspect of this game is how you handle the balance and timing, actually, between choosing to start the game as an outlaw or a marshal. And at some point in the game, you might switch sides. You may decide to do that. And you're just trying to balance that out between, things that you do on the wanted track will get you legend points, which are victory points, but abilities along the way. In fact, let me just zoom in here so you can see that even better, right? Abilities along the way, like drawing cards and stuff like that. Or you can go up the martial track by doing martial related things, including competing and beating other players who are outlaws and doing outlaw type things. Anyways, it's a lot of fun. I've seen a lot of players tend to follow the strategy of starting out as wanted and then going martial, but you don't have to. You can have a lot of fun doing other things like trying to gamble in the saloon and beat poker hands against players, or even against the what do they call those? Like a dealer. Or you can go mining for gold. Like, there's other ways that you can score points along the way, including upgrading items and such. It's a lot of fun. There are other there's like a roaming sheriff that's out there. So as an outlaw, you can go and attack that, or you can rob a bank, and you want to manage that with not having to worry about the bank. You can herd cattle. There are tokens and locations to take the cattles between. You can do that as well. And there are also bandits that are out there along the way to mess up those plans too. Anyways, it's always memorable to play a really long and fun session of this. Western Legends is really cool, and that is my 64 or 66. So looking at my 65 here, I had to put the flamingo. There are other animals I could have used, but one of my daughters, her favorite animal is a flamingo, so I had to do it. And that is for a game called New York Zoo. I don't actually very much enjoy polyomino style games where you're just trying to build in a certain plot of land with these funky shaped pieces. But this one is a really good one. You have a marker, which is this elephant, and it's a rondelle. You have to go around in a specific direction, but you can only move between 1 to 4 spaces. So you may either land on end your turn on a space where you are bringing animals and breeding as well of a certain type. So this is a checkpoint, but if you pass the checkpoint, then whenever you end your move, then everybody would breed their flamingos. So this is a way to fill out these polyominoes with the flamingos that you're putting on it. Or you can get new pins, or you can actually bring in more animals. So you're constantly, putting in pieces of land. You have to put at least one animal on it when you place it. That's the major crux in this game that you have to figure out. And you get abilities. Like, every time you fill out a particular plot of land completely with that animal, all the animals come off, and you get to take a bonus tile, which can really fill in the gaps. Like, you can see these individual holes. And this is a race game, so you are trying to be the first player to completely fill the plot of land. And with that, I basically taught you the entire game. And it's very easy to play. And it's really good at all players. And I really recommend this. It's a really enjoyable, clean game that I don't know how else to describe it. It's fun. It's just one of those puzzly style games that doesn't hurt your brain, doesn't give you a ton of choices and cause a lot of AP. On your turn, you are trying to look at what piece you can reach into, and should you do it, should you not do it. I think there's more strategy into this game as a 2-player game, which could be real good. Doesn't feel as chaotic when it's like a 4-player game and you're like, I really want this piece, but we're here right now. How far do I go up in Vans and hopefully get that spot again? So it's a fun game. It's great for a lot of players. So that is New York Zoo, my 65. And now moving on to my number 64. This is another classic action selection game called San Juan. This is basically Puerto Rico, the card game. And I learned this from watching someone like a Dice Tower top 100. I didn't know this at the time, but this game, the original version of San Juan, came out at the same time that Race for the Galaxy came out, and they're very, very similar style games in which you are picking an action or picking it's action selection. So you're picking a role, and everyone gets to do that thing, but the person who picked it gets to do a little bit of a better thing. And this blends it with Puerto Rico, where you're trying to build buildings. And right now I'm only showing you the production buildings, but there are actual purple buildings that are different, like end game scoring buildings or buildings that have special abilities. And you're trying to do the whole gambit of things. You're going to produce goods on the buildings that you have. You can sell them in a revolving market, so that every time you sell, you flip over a new market token and it tells you how much they sell for. So they're not always guaranteed to sell for the same value. And when you sell them, you're not getting victory points, you're just getting more cards. And it's a really good way to get really good stuff. And it's a race, I think, to 15 cards, I think, is the trigger for the end of the game. And then you count up points and you see who wins. It's a really fun game, and I love this at 2 players, and that is San Juan, my number 64. Now, if we look into my 63, this is, man, if I actually said that let's just show you what it is. It is 8-Minute Empire Legends. Before in our last video, I thought that Near and Far was my highest ranked Ryan Lockett game, but I think this one actually is my highest rank. So we'll find out. But anyways, 8-Minute Empire, and I'm targeting Legends because I do like the aesthetic more. But I also think that it's I just like the look of this better, actually. There's nothing else to mention other than the aesthetic. It plays very similar to 8-Minute Empire itself. And basically you have this dynamically built game map that you're putting together. You can rotate them, you can flip them, you can put them in different configurations based off of player counts, and you pre-populate them with some other tiles and such. And you take turns putting armies on the board, and basically all you're doing is just trying to have area majorities and card comboing. And it's clever how the whole market system works. You have a starting amount of gold. You really don't earn gold throughout the game. There's a really slight way to get gold, but for the most part you don't. And so when you buy cards from the row, I think it's you can see the card here tells you how much each of the cards cost in the row. So 0 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, 2 gold, 2 gold, 3 gold. So you can get a really awesome card that you need at the right time, or you really want to make sure that your opponent doesn't get the card, but it's expensive. It's 3 gold out of, like, what is this player starting with? It looks like 13, I think. Yeah. Anyways, this is another game that really does well with comboing. So you can, all of your actions are tied to the card that you grabbed. So if you grab this card, you do whatever the top says, and then you do the bottom. So let's pick, like, for example, this one here, you would get a unit. And so you just spawn a unit at wherever you've got your castles or your entry points. And then the bottom action is you get to build a new castle, and you get to bring out a new unit. Here you can choose to either gain 2 units, or you get to move 3 of them. Here you get to gain the wings, which lets you cross the dots across the oceans or across the water at one less cost, and that is totally stackable. There are cards that will give you bonus points at the end of the game for however many of these things that you have. So there's just a ton of options. And here we're looking at like an end game state between the players. They're actually using a variant that's included in the game that gives you particular player powers. I don't usually use them, but you can do that. And this is a game that I think is just about to start, hence why their starting gold is like this. So just a scoring card and some helpful aid and such. But anyways, 8-Minute Empire is really fun. I don't know. There's so much like silly criticism that goes into the name. It's 8-Minute Empire, but it's not a game that plays in 8 minutes. I don't know why it's called that. But don't take it too literally. It plays in about half an hour, maybe 20 minutes, once you guys both know how to play the game. It's a 2-player only game, if I remember correctly. Actually, no, it's not. It does play more, but I have only played it at 2 players. In fact, I think I would love it at 3 or 4 players, but I just never had a chance to play with more people yet. The original version of this without legends is great too. Just pick the flavor that you like. This is also available in the non-legends version. I think is available in Steam too, so it's a really fun game. Anyways, I'm done talking about that game, which is my 63 8 minute Empire Legends. All right, we're coming up to my number 62. Again, sorry about the funky shape here, but it looks like one of those face statues from Easter Island, I believe is where that's from. And this is a game called Tobago. Tobago? I don't know. I'm not really good with my terminology of geography. This is a reverse deduction game. So usually in deduction games, you know something. There's something that's known and you're trying to deduce what it is or where it is, right? Here you don't know where the treasure is buried. And so you begin to play cards to narrow down, using them as clues to narrow down where these things might potentially be. So in this game, you're playing as, think of yourselves as groups of pirates or explorers or like Indiana Jones adventurers. And so you have now the card play here is really tricky. I think I should have probably brought the rule book here. Let me just see if I can. That might be helpful. Let's see if they have it. I can just pull for it. Blue reference card, setup guide, quick reference. I think this might be what we need. Oops. There we go. Let me just show you what this looks like here. There we go. It's upside down. Okay, so you have a clue reference guide, which are the cards that you get to play, and they'll say something like, this isn't what I needed. I'm so sorry. Bear with me. This is gonna be helpful. I should have thought about this ahead of time. I get that. Okay, I get it. Let me show you. Where are the cards? Treasure cards. Curse cards. Where are the cards? Cards. Play amulet. Site marker. Oh, right here. Under. The artwork was throwing me off. Okay. So you're going to have a hand of cards. The artwork is not really great in this edition of it, but let me show you what this is. Okay. So you've got these cards in your hand, and you have to play one, and it has to add towards narrowing where the possibilities of the treasure are. So if you were to play this card on a particular color of treasure, there are 4 of them out there, you would say that this treasure is within 2 spaces of a palm tree. It's not at the space of a palm tree, but it's within 2 spaces of it. And so if that were the case and you were playing it on black, then you could begin to remove like this piece and this piece and this piece and so on. So you're eventually going to narrow it down to it's exactly 1 cube. And then any player can go over there, spend a couple of actions to move your ATV to go dig up the treasure. And based off of contribution, like who dug it up gets first dibs. And then who played the most recent clue card, and going all the way back until the original clue card was played. Players in those orders are going to be dealt treasure cards to see what is potentially in that pool of treasure. So let's say I got 2 cards and another player has 2 cards and another player has 1 card. There's always 1 additional random card drawn in. So I'm looking at 2 cards out of a total of 6 cards that represents the treasure. And then 1 card at a time, we are going to reveal them, and in player order based off of who contributed to pick up the gold treasure, the treasure, they're going to pass or take the card. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most points wins. So you want to do that. And sometimes you're going to know, oh man, some of these cards are going to be some of these treasure cards are going to be cursed, and I don't want to be the first person to draw one. So there's like a hidden element to there. This game is so fun. I feel like I'm doing a poor job at explaining this game, but it's such a cool game. It's on Board Game Arena if you have access to that platform. I would say go check it out there. I don't know if it's in print or not anymore, but this game, it is a thinkier game. It is a rougher teach because it's kind of counterintuitive with what reverse deduction means, and moving legs versus moving action spaces can be a little tricky. But man, is this game freaking cool! So I love this game, and that is Tobago. my number 62. And the last video, excuse me, in the last video that we're going to do, the last game that we're going to do in this video is my 61, and that is Furnace. So Furnace, how do I describe Furnace? It uses an auction. So you're going to see cards in the center of the table, and everyone has one of these discs in their player color. So if I were black, I'd get a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. Okay, and on your turn, you have to play one of these discs, and you cannot play a disc where you've already played a disc, and you cannot play a disc of the same value on a card where that value is already played. So if there's a 3, I can't use my 3 there. Now, eventually, all of the discs will be played, and we are going to hand cards out and rewards out based off of who won the card with the highest bid and who didn't. So if you did not win the card, you're allowed to activate the power of the card. Actually, it's the power of a card. I think you're able to get a resource or power of the card, and so on. But if you did win the card, you don't get to activate it, but you get to take the card, and then there's another phase where you start to put all your cards together in like an assembly line of automation, and you just activate one after the other, and getting resources and spending resources and converting resources for points and so on. And so if you really like, I would say you don't have to like auctions to like this game, but you should like converting resources, because that's a heavy element in this game. So if you like taking resources and converting them and comboing and stuff like that would be the barrier to entry for this game. Is if you don't like that stuff, you're not going to like this game. But you may enjoy this game even if you're not a huge fan of auction games, because it's more like it's an auction game, but there's no real punishment to the auction game. So there's positive elements to that for losing as well. You may in fact know that you don't even want the card, but you'll put just the high enough disc on there so that you get to activate and use the card, because the higher the power, the more you get out of it without winning. Anyways, Furnace is an awesome game. Check that out. That's going to do it for us. That is my 61, Furnace. And that will do it for us in this video here. I'm really hoping you're enjoying this format. This is really fun for me, to be honest with you. So getting something out of it. But most importantly, I think what I mentioned in my last video, the primary goal for the 100 videos isn't to just talk about like what I love. It's hopefully to introduce you to games you have not heard of or seen of or thought of in a long time. Go research them and then maybe figure out if it's something you want to pick up and play with your friends. Like, that's what I'm hoping happens for you. And if it is, definitely let me know. Otherwise, I'm hoping this has been entertaining. And thanks for your time. And I will catch you next time where we jump into my number 60 to 51. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'm Informal Geek, and I'm out.